30 million people died in one war. You've never heard of it. 3 million died in another. Also forgotten. One war killed more Americans than Vietnam. We call it the Forgotten War. Like it's a joke. Another war built American imperialism. It's erased from textbooks. A third war is happening right now, the worst humanitarian crisis on Earth, and it doesn't make headlines. These aren't small wars. These aren't unimportant conflicts. They killed more people than World War II. They redrew the entire map of the modern world. They shaped every geopolitical tension you see today. And we forgot them. In the next 10 minutes, you're going to see 5 wars that fundamentally changed human history. Wars that killed tens of millions. Wars that created the borders you live within. Wars that decided which countries have power and which don't. But here's the question nobody asks: why did we forget them? Because the answer will change how you see the world. Let's start with a war that's still happening right now. Today, in Yemen, 400,000 people are dead. 2 million are displaced. Children are starving. Disease is spreading. It's the worst humanitarian crisis on Earth. And it gets zero coverage. You probably didn't know that Yemen is at war. You definitely didn't know. It's the deadliest conflict happening right now. That's not because Yemen isn't important. It's because the people fighting don't make headlines. In 2014, a Shia insurgency called the Houthis took over Yemen's capital. The government fought back. Saudi Arabia intervened. The United States backed Saudi Arabia. And suddenly, a regional conflict became a catastrophe. But here's the shocking part: 80% of those 400,000 deaths aren't from bombs or bullets. They're from starvation. From disease. From a complete collapse of society. One choice to intervene created a humanitarian nightmare nobody talks about. And that's just the beginning. Now let's go back 70 years. The Korean War. It's called the Forgotten War by military historians. That nickname should tell you something. We literally named it after the fact that nobody remembers it. But the numbers don't match the forgetting. 3.7 million people died in Korea. That's more than the entire Vietnam War. Vietnam killed 58,000 Americans and it defined a generation. Korea killed 36,500 Americans and we act like it never happened. North Korea lost 15% of its entire population. Entire cities were destroyed. Families were split across a border that still exists today. 70 years later, North Korea and South Korea are still technically at war. No peace treaty was ever signed. Just an armistice. A pause. An agreement to stop fighting without agreeing on anything. And we forgot about it. But forgetting Korea meant we forgot the warning signs for what comes next. Here's something they don't teach in American schools. In 1899, the United States went to war with the Philippines. Not Spain. The Philippines. A country that had just declared independence. A country that thought America was coming to liberate them. America was coming to colonize them. 200,000 to 600,000 Filipinos died. Mostly civilians. Mostly from starvation and disease. The war lasted 3 years, but the death toll stayed hidden. Why? Because America didn't want to admit it was an imperial power. The Philippine-American War built the template for every counterinsurgency America would fight. It's where hearts and minds doctrine was born. It's where interrogation techniques that look suspiciously like torture first appeared in American military manuals. And it's completely erased from textbooks. American kids learn about Vietnam. They learn about Iraq. But the war that killed 600,000 people and built American imperialism. That war doesn't exist in the American education system. That erasure is intentional. And it's the reason we keep repeating the same Mistakes. Now here's the one that will break your brain. In 1850, a Chinese man named Hong Xiuquan failed his government exam 4 times. On the 4th failure, he had a vision. God spoke to him directly. He believed he was Jesus Christ's younger brother, sent to purify China. Millions believed him. What followed was the deadliest war in human history. 30 million people dead. Some historians say 40 million. The Taiping rebellion consumed China for 14 years. Entire cities vanished. Provinces emptied. Populations disappeared. To put that in perspective, World War II killed 70 million people over 6 years across the entire planet. The Taiping rebellion killed 30 million in one country in 14 years. And nobody knows its name. But here's what makes it more than just a death toll, what this war did to China created wounds that never healed. Wounds that still drive Chinese foreign policy today. China's current aggression, its nationalism, its distrust of the West. It starts here. In 1919, Greece invaded Turkey. Not Ottoman Turkey. Not ancient Turkey. The Turkey that exists right now. On your map. The one in NATO. The one blocking Sweden's membership. The one Erdogan runs. That Turkey. Greece invaded it. And what happened next created a template that genocides would follow for the next 100 years. 1.5 million people were displaced forcibly. Greeks expelled from Turkey. Muslims expelled from Greece. Entire communities that had existed for thousands of years were erased in months. In Smyrna, a city older than Rome, 100,000 people were massacred in days. The city was burned to the ground. Survivors fled into the sea. Nobody came to help. The war ended in 1923. New borders were drawn. New nations were created. And the blueprint for ethnic cleansing was complete. Every genocide that followed studied this war. Every forced population movement borrowed from this template. And the borders it created. They're still bleeding today. 5 wars. Tens of millions dead. Borders redrawn. Nations created. Humanitarian crises ignored. And one pattern connecting all of them. We didn't forget these wars because they were small. We didn't forget them because they were unimportant. We forgot them because remembering them is uncomfortable. Because remembering means admitting that governments lie. That corporations profit from conflict. That the international community watches millions die and does nothing. Forgetting is easier. But here's what forgetting costs us. The Korean War created North Korea's nuclear program. We forgot the war and inherited the nuclear threat. The Philippine-American War built the template for military intervention. We forgot the war and repeated the intervention. In Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, the Taiping rebellion broke China. We forgot it and can't understand why China behaves the way it does today. The Greco-Turkish War perfected ethnic cleansing. We forgot it and watched the same template used in Bosnia, Rwanda, and Myanmar. And Yemen. Yemen is happening right now. While you watch this video. While the news covers other stories. While governments look away. 400,000 dead. And counting. So here's the question that should keep you up at night. What war are we creating right now that our children will forget in 50 years? Because history doesn't warn us. We just stop listening.